Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep into the golden sands of a legendary city, a place whispered about in ancient texts and modern dreams. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of the Sahara, the sun a relentless golden orb melting into the horizon, casting long purple shadows across an ancient landscape. A dry, hot breeze kicks up tiny eddies of sand, swirling around your ankles as you gaze at the mud brick minarets piercing the vast, star-dusted sky. This isn't just any desert outpost. This is Timbuktu, a name that echoes with forgotten wisdom and untold secrets. Tonight, you're not just a passive listener. You're an explorer, an archaeologist, perhaps even a whisperer of forgotten tales, journeying into the very heart of this enigmatic city. You'll be sifting through the sands of time, metaphorically speaking, but also quite literally, as we delve into a mystery that lies not above ground, but deep, deep beneath it. You might think you're just settling in for a cozy story, but let me tell you, what we're about to uncover could challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient African civilization. You might even find yourself holding your breath, wondering what unseen forces are at play beneath your very feet. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, if you're listening from somewhere exotic, or even just your couch, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always fun to see where we all connect. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you step into this phantom city, you immediately notice the weight of history pressing in. The very air, thick with the scent of dust and distant memories, feels different. You squint, trying to pierce the shimmering heat haze and see the outlines of buildings, not quite as grand as you'd imagined from the stories, but possessing an undeniable gravitas. This Timbuktu, the one you're exploring now, is a ghost of its former self, a testament to the relentless march of time and the shifting sands of the desert. But beneath the surface, beneath the countless generations of sand and dust that have accumulated, there are whispers. Whispers of something more, something hidden, something vast and intricate. Mainstream historical fact. Timbuktu was established as a seasonal camp by Tuareg nomads in the 11th century, eventually evolving into a permanent settlement due to its strategic location at the bend of the Niger River and the intersection of trans-Saharan trade routes. But you're not thinking about its humble beginnings, are you? You're feeling the pull of the ground beneath you, the way the very earth seems to hum with unspoken tales. A quirky tidbit. Local legends sometimes speak of jinns or spirits, guarding ancient sites, and some believe that the shifting sands around Timbuktu aren't just natural phenomena, but the restless movements of these guardians, deliberately obscuring access to hidden realms. You might chuckle, but as the night deepens, and the wind whistles through imaginary crevices, you might just find yourself glancing over your shoulder. Historians still argue whether the initial settlements were truly nomadic, or if they were more permanent, albeit smaller, structures existing much earlier than commonly accepted timelines suggest. But for you, right now, the focus is on the beneath. You take a tentative step, feeling the soft give of the sand, and a strange sensation prickles your skin. It's as if the ground itself is breathing, a slow, ancient rhythm that hints at vast, unseen spaces below. Your journey has truly begun, and the forgotten tunnels beneath Timbuktu are calling. You can almost hear the echoes of ancient footsteps, the rustle of robes, and the hushed voices of scholars, lost in the labyrinthine depths. You continue your phantom stroll through the ancient city, and as the fictional dust settles, you begin to perceive Timbuktu not just as a place, but as an idea, a concept of intellectual flourishing born from the very heart of the desert. This wasn't some sleepy village. This was, in its golden age, a bustling metropolis, a vibrant tapestry woven from threads of commerce, culture, and profound knowledge. Imagine the scene around you, the air alive with the chatter of merchants haggling over prices, the lowing of camels arriving laden with salt from the north and gold from the south, the rhythmic beat of drums from a distant celebration, and the hushed, intense murmur of scholars debating complex philosophical texts in the shade of a mud-brick wall. You see individuals from all corners of the known world converging here. Tuareg nomads, their faces shrouded against the sun, stride purposefully past Hausa traders with their vibrant textiles. Arab scholars, their robes crisp despite the heat, exchange greetings with Songhai griots, whose voices are living libraries of their people's history. This was a melting pot, a true crossroads where ideas flowed as freely as the caravans that traversed the unforgiving Sahara. It's almost overwhelming, this sensory explosion, as you mentally reconstruct the vibrant life that once pulsed through these streets. The sheer energy of it is palpable even now, centuries later. Mainstream historical fact. Timbuktu reached its intellectual and economic peak during the 15th and 16th centuries, particularly under the Songhai Empire, becoming a world-renowned centre for Islamic scholarship and trade. This wasn't just a regional hub, it was a global player, a true intellectual superpower of its time. You can almost feel the intellectual currents still swirling around you, a residual hum of 1,000 minds at work. A quirky tidbit. While known for its gold and salt trade, Timbuktu also traded in more unusual commodities, like cola nuts, which were highly prized for their stimulating properties, and even exotic animals, occasionally bringing ostriches or gazelles into the bustling city centre. Imagine trying to explain that to your local zoning board. Yes, officer, just taking my pet ostrich for a stroll past the Great Mosque. It adds a certain unexpected charm to the historical tableau, doesn't it? Historians still argue whether the city's unique blend of oral tradition and written scholarship was a deliberate pedagogical strategy or an organic evolution shaped by cultural and environmental factors. You find yourself pondering this as you observe the phantom scholars, some with scrolls, others simply listening, their eyes closed in contemplation. The flow of information here was not just from page to mind, it was a dynamic, living exchange. This intellectual vibrancy, this thirst for knowledge, is precisely what led to the accumulation of so many precious manuscripts, and perhaps the need for safe, secret places to store them. You sense that the city's prosperity and its pursuit of knowledge were deeply intertwined, two sides of the same golden coin. The echoes of a booming economy and a flourishing intellectual life resonate through the very ground you stand on, hinting at the vast, complex infrastructure that must have supported it all, perhaps even below the surface. As you continue your immersive journey through the golden age of Timbuktu, your eyes are drawn upwards towards the architectural titans that defined this city's intellectual soul. You stand, mesmerized, before the Sankore University and the Jingareba Mosque, not just as buildings, but as living, breathing monuments to knowledge. These aren't the towering cathedrals of Europe, nor the gleaming marble palaces of the East. No, these are structures born of the earth itself, crafted from mud and wood, yet they possess a profound spiritual and intellectual majesty that transcends their humble materials. Imagine the sheer scale of the Jingareba Mosque, its minarets reaching towards the sky like ancient gnarled fingers, perfectly adapted to the desert environment. You can almost feel the cool, dark interior beckoning you, a sanctuary from the relentless sun. And then there's Sankore, not a single monolithic university campus as we might envision today, but rather a collection of courtyards, lecture halls, and private residences, all serving as centres of learning. It was an open-air academic village where scholars and students lived, studied, and debated side by side. Think of it as the ultimate co-working space. Centuries before co-working was even a twinkle in a Silicon Valley entrepreneur's eye. Except, instead of artisanal coffee, you're probably smelling dust and the faint aroma of parchment. You can almost hear the soft scuff of sandals on packed earth, the murmur of verses being recited, the scratch of reed pens on parchment. Students, some no older than teenagers, others seasoned scholars, move with purpose, their faces etched with the focused intensity of those pursuing profound understanding. These structures weren't just places of worship or study, they were epicenters, radiating knowledge outwards across the Sahara and beyond. They were the very heart of Timbuktu's identity as a beacon of learning. Mainstream historical fact: the University of Sankore, though not a single campus in the modern sense, comprised numerous independent madrasas, Islamic schools, centered around the Sankore Mosque, offering advanced studies in fields like astronomy, mathematics, law, medicine, and theology. It attracted scholars and students from across the Muslim world, making Timbuktu a true global intellectual hub. It's almost mind-boggling to consider the breadth of knowledge being cultivated here in the middle of a desert, while much of Europe was still figuring out basic plumbing. A quirky tidbit: to construct these massive mud brick structures, builders utilized a technique called banko, a mix of mud, straw, and other organic materials. Maintenance was an ongoing process, with communities gathering annually for the crepissage, or plastering, to repair and strengthen the mosque walls. Imagine your entire neighborhood coming together once a year, not for a barbecue, but to throw mud at a building. It certainly puts modern home maintenance into perspective, doesn't it? Honey, did you remember to replaster the north wall this year? Historians still argue whether the decentralized nature of Sankore was a deliberate choice to foster academic freedom and diverse methodologies, or simply a practical adaptation to the city's organic growth and the influence of independent scholars. Regardless, the outcome was an academic environment that was both rigorous and remarkably flexible. And as you gaze at these magnificent structures, you can't help but wonder if their enduring strength, their very resilience against the harsh desert elements, was somehow mirrored in what lay beneath. Perhaps the same ingenuity that built these iconic landmarks also delved deeper, creating hidden spaces that would preserve their most precious treasures from the relentless march of time, or perhaps from less predictable threats. The thought of such a hidden layer, mirroring the visible grandeur, sends a shiver of anticipation down your spine. Your mental journey through Timbuktu's golden age now leads you directly to the heart of its unparalleled fame, the manuscript treasures. You find yourself standing, not in a grand echoing library of polished wood and gleaming brass, but in more intimate, sun-dappled courtyards and modest private homes, rooms lined with shelves, brimming with the accumulated wisdom of centuries. Imagine the sheer volume, hundreds of thousands, perhaps even 1 million, individual manuscripts, meticulously copied, bound, and preserved, some dating back to the 13th century or earlier. This wasn't just a collection, it was an entire universe of knowledge, painstakingly crafted by hand. You can almost feel the dry, brittle texture of the aged parchment and paper beneath your fingertips, smell the faint, sweet scent of leather bindings and the earthiness of the pigments. These weren't just religious texts, though the Quran and various Islamic commentaries were certainly abundant. No, these were scholarly works spanning an astonishing array of disciplines: astronomy, mathematics, medicine, law, history, geography, poetry, even treatises on ethics and good governance. Think about that for a moment. While parts of Europe were still figuring out how to stop the plague, Timbuktu scholars were debating complex quadratic equations and charting the movements of celestial bodies with remarkable precision. It's enough to make your jaw drop, or at least give you a little intellectual nudge. Each manuscript is a work of art in itself, often beautifully illuminated with intricate geometric patterns or delicate calligraphy. Many contain marginalia, the handwritten notes of generations of scholars offering insights, corrections, or even a cheeky critique of the original author. It's like peeking into a centuries-long conversation, a vibrant scholarly discourse frozen in time. You realise that these weren't just dusty relics. They were living documents, constantly read, debated, and added to. The sheer dedication required to produce and preserve such a vast archive, in a desert climate no less, is truly awe-inspiring. Mainstream historical fact: Timbuktu's private family libraries collectively held an estimated 300,000 to 700,000 manuscripts, making it one of the largest and most significant collections of written knowledge in the world during its prime. This wasn't a single royal library, but a decentralized network of intellectual wealth scattered among prominent scholarly families, each acting as a custodian of precious information. It's like discovering that every house on your block secretly holds a priceless Gutenberg Bible, except here it was more about ancient science and philosophy. A quirky tidbit: due to the scarcity and expensive paper, some older Timbuktu manuscripts were written on dried animal skins, most commonly gazelle hide. Imagine trying to get a decent ink flow on a piece of dried gazelle. It certainly adds another layer to the dedication of these scribes, doesn't it? Perhaps it's why some of the writing is a bit fluid. Historians still argue whether the decentralized nature of these manuscript collections, held mostly in private hands rather than a centralized state library, made them more resilient to external threats or more vulnerable to dispersion and loss. But as you gaze upon this imagined wealth of knowledge, you can't help but feel the immense weight of its significance. And then, a thought sparks. If these treasures were so vital, so utterly central to Timbuktu's identity and its enduring legacy, wouldn't the brilliant minds who created and cherished them also devise extraordinary measures to protect them? Measures that might extend beyond the visible walls into the very earth beneath the city, hinting at the true purpose of the tunnels we're so determined to uncover. The idea feels less like speculation and more like an undeniable logical conclusion. As you continue to immerse yourself in the intellectual landscape of Timbuktu, you quickly realize that the written word, magnificent as it was, wasn't the sole guardian of knowledge. You perceive the vibrant pulse of something equally profound, something deeply embedded in the very fabric of society, the oral tradition. Imagine yourself sitting in a shaded courtyard, perhaps under a spreading acacia tree, the sun still warm on your skin as evening approaches. Around you, a crowd gathers, hushed and attentive. Before them, a griot, a master storyteller and oral historian, begins to speak. His voice is a melodic instrument, rising and falling, weaving intricate narratives of lineage, battles, proverbs, and the very foundations of the Malian empires. You feel the power of his words, the way they resonate, not just in your ears, but deep within you. This isn't entertainment in the modern sense. This is history, law, ethics, and cultural identity, all transmitted through the living breath of a human being. It's a dynamic, interactive form of knowledge transfer, where nuances of tone, gesture, and even audience response played crucial roles. Think of it as a meticulously curated, living, breathing Wikipedia, but with much better dramatic flair and zero pop-up ads. You can almost see the history unfolding before your eyes, not on a page, but in the vivid tapestry of the griot's words. This oral tradition wasn't just about stories, It was about precision. Genealogies, treaties, legal precedents, all were committed to memory with astonishing accuracy, passed down from generation to generation through rigorous training and apprenticeship. It complemented the written manuscripts perfectly, providing context, interpretation, and often the very spark for new intellectual inquiry. It was the living commentary to the written text, the performance that brought the words on the page to vibrant life. Mainstream historical fact. In many West African societies, including those influenced by Timbuktu, griots, known by various names like Jelly or Gule, served as professional bards, praise singers, and oral historians, preserving vast amounts of historical, social, and cultural information through meticulously memorized narratives and songs. They were, in essence, the human archives of their communities. It highlights a profound respect for spoken word that can sometimes feel lost in our text-heavy modern world. A quirky tidbit. To aid in memory and transmission, griots often employed mnemonic devices, including intricate patterns woven into textiles or specific musical rhythms associated with certain narratives. So, that seemingly random geometric pattern on a fabric might actually be a coded historical timeline. It's like finding a secret message in your grandmother's quilt, only instead of remember to buy milk, it's remember the Battle of Kyrene, 1235 AD. Historians still argue whether the dominance of oral tradition in some pre-colonial West African states was a hindrance to broader literacy or a sophisticated alternative that prioritized community memory and dynamic transmission over static documentation. For you, standing there, experiencing the raw power of the griot's voice, it feels less like a limitation and more like a profound connection to the past, a direct line to the ancestors. And this dual system, the vast written collections and the equally profound oral histories, begs a question. If the written texts needed protection in hidden spaces, did the keepers of the oral tradition also have their own secret, perhaps more metaphorical, tunnels of knowledge? Perhaps the physical tunnels were not just for scrolls, but for scholars themselves, providing sanctuary where the echoes of ancient tales could be safely preserved, away from prying ears or destructive forces. The intricate interplay between the tangible and intangible forms of knowledge in Timbuktu truly sets it apart. Your mental journey now shifts from the intellectual pulse of Timbuktu to the very arteries that fed its incredible growth and sustained its academic brilliance, the salt and gold trade. You find yourself standing at the edge of the city, watching the endless horizon shimmer under the desert sun. Then, slowly, majestically, a caravan appears. It's not just a few camels, it's a living, breathing river of them, stretching for what seems like miles, their rhythmic plodding raising clouds of dust. These aren't just pack animals. They are the lifeblood of Timbuktu, bridging vast, unforgiving distances. Imagine the scene: hundreds, sometimes thousands, of camels laden with immense slabs of rock salt from the Saharan mines to the north, especially places like Tagaza. You can almost taste the dryness, the saltiness in the air as they approach. And conversely, you see other caravans heading south, their burdens lighter but infinitely more valuable, shimmering gold dust and nuggets from the Akan and Bambuk goldfields. This wasn't just trade, it was an intricate, high-stakes ballet performed on the grandest stage imaginable, the Sahara Desert. The sheer scale and logistical genius required to orchestrate such movements across hundreds of miles of shifting sands and brutal heat is truly staggering. You suddenly have a profound appreciation for a camel's ability to hold a grudge, or perhaps just water. This wasn't merely about profit, it was about connection. Timbuktu became the crucial nexus, the pivot point where the salt of the desert met the gold of the forests, where North African, Arab, and sub-Saharan African cultures converged. The wealth generated from this trade didn't just line the pockets of a few, it fueled the entire city. It paid for the scribes, supported the scholars, imported the precious paper and ink, and allowed the madrasas to flourish. Without the tireless efforts of these caravanners, braving unimaginable dangers, Timbuktu would have remained just another dusty outpost. Mainstream historical fact: the trans-Saharan trade routes, active for over a millennium, were vital arteries connecting West Africa with North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Gold and salt were the primary commodities, but the trade also included slaves, cola nuts, textiles, and manufactured goods, making Timbuktu a cosmopolitan centre of immense wealth and cultural exchange. It was truly the ancient world's version of a global supply chain, except with significantly more sand and fewer container ships. A quirky tidbit: to protect against banditry and ensure safe passage, some larger caravans travelled with armed escorts, sometimes numbering in the hundreds. Imagine trying to explain that to your travel insurance provider. Yes, I need coverage for potential desert raids involving 500 camels and a small army. It adds a whole new level of "are we there yet?" to a journey. Historians still argue whether the decline of the trans-Saharan trade was primarily due to the rise of European maritime routes along the West African coast, diverting wealth and goods, or if internal political instability played a more significant role in disrupting the ancient networks. But as you watch these phantom caravans appear and disappear into the shimmering heat haze, you ponder the implications of such vital, valuable goods passing through Timbuktu. The enormous wealth, the constant flow of people, the very tangible nature of the gold and salt. Surely this would necessitate security measures. And what better security than something unseen, something hidden beneath the very ground? The idea of tunnels, not just for people or knowledge, but for the protection and clandestine movement of these precious commodities, begins to feel less like a theory and more like an absolute necessity. Having witnessed the raw economic power that fueled Timbuktu, your attention now turns to the very individuals who transformed that wealth into enduring legacy, the scribes and scholars. You mentally step into one of the city's countless private libraries or a quiet corner of a madrasa, and there they are. Picture them. Men of all ages, some hunched over low tables, others cross-legged on mats, their faces illuminated by the soft, flickering light of an oil lamp, or the gentle glow of sunlight filtering through a high window. Their hands move with practiced grace, reed pens scratching softly on parchment or paper, transcribing, annotating, or composing. These weren't just copyists, they were intellectual artisans, meticulously preserving and expanding the vast body of knowledge. You can almost feel the intense concentration emanating from them, the quiet dedication to their craft. Each stroke of the pen, each perfectly formed character, was an act of devotion, a commitment to ensuring that wisdom endured. Some are copying ancient texts, perhaps a rare manuscript brought across the desert from Cairo or Baghdad. Others are original thinkers, compiling new works on astronomy based on their own observations of the desert sky, or composing legal rulings rooted in generations of local jurisprudence. It's a silent symphony of intellect, a testament to humanity's enduring quest for understanding. Think of the patience required. Imagine copying an entire book, page after page, day after day, week after week, all by hand. No spell check, no backspace, just pure, unadulterated focus. It makes your average 8-hour workday seem like a tropical vacation. And it wasn't just about the act of copying. It was about internalizing the knowledge, debating its nuances, and passing it on to the next generation of eager students. These scholars were the living bridges between past and future, the custodians of an intellectual heritage that spanned continents. Mainstream historical fact. Timbuktu's scribal tradition was highly developed, with entire families dedicating themselves to the art of copying and preserving manuscripts. Many of these scribes were also renowned scholars, contributing original works to various fields of study, demonstrating the seamless integration of manual skill and intellectual prowess. It wasn't just a job, it was a calling, often passed down through generations, like a particularly nerdy family heirloom. A quirky tidbit. To ensure accuracy, scribes often worked in pairs, with one reading aloud from the original text while the other transcribed. This read-aloud, write-along method was surprisingly effective, though you can imagine the arguments over misheard words or a particularly bad case of the sniffles interrupting the flow. Wait, was that camel or caramel? The stakes were surprisingly high for correct spelling. Historians still argue whether the high demand for scribal work led to a uniform style of calligraphy across Timbuktu, or if regional variations persisted, allowing experts to pinpoint the origin of a manuscript based on its script alone. For you, observing these diligent individuals, the meticulousness is clear. And this meticulousness, this profound dedication to the preservation of knowledge, sparks a thought. If these scholars were so utterly devoted to their craft, so keen on safeguarding every precious word, wouldn't they also consider extraordinary measures to protect their physical legacy? Perhaps not just the manuscripts themselves, but the very tools, the inks, the rare papers, and even safe havens for the scholars during times of unrest. The notion of secret subterranean workshops or refuges for these intellectual giants, connected by the hidden tunnels, seems less like a flight of fancy and more like a logical extension of their unwavering commitment to learning. As you continue your deep dive into the historical undercurrents of Timbuktu, you begin to shift your focus from the visible grandeur to the tantalizing possibility of what lies hidden. Now you explore the very first whispers, the faint echoes of an idea that has persisted through generations. The early tunnel theories. Imagine yourself speaking with an elder in a quiet, dust-filled courtyard, the kind of place where time seems to fold in on itself. He speaks of stories passed down from his grandparents, not written in books, but etched into the collective memory of the community. He mentions passages beneath the old quarter, or routes used by the ancients in times of great need. These aren't archaeological reports or engineering blueprints. These are legends, snippets of folklore, sometimes vague, sometimes surprisingly specific. You hear tales of secret escape routes used during invasions, or hidden conduits for water, or even, more mysteriously, pathways connecting the great libraries to each other, allowing scholars to move safely and discreetly with their precious cargo. It's like finding a single, faded photograph that suggests an entire lost city just out of frame. These early theories, often dismissed as mere myth by external observers, hold a profound weight within the local community, a quiet conviction that there's more to Timbuktu than meets the eye. You might find yourself initially skeptical, thinking of them as quaint local colour. But as you listen more closely, as you absorb the quiet certainty in the voices of those who share these tales, a sense of intrigue begins to grow. Why would such consistent narratives persist for so long across so many families if there wasn't at least a kernel of truth at their core? It makes you wonder what subtle clues, what physical irregularities might have given rise to these enduring stories in the first place. Perhaps a sudden depression in the ground, an unusually cool spot in a hot room, or a sudden, inexplicable gust of wind from nowhere. Mainstream historical fact. Local oral traditions in Timbuktu and other ancient West African cities frequently include accounts of hidden passages, subterranean chambers, and secret routes, often associated with defense, trade, or the preservation of valuable goods during periods of conflict. While sometimes embellished, these stories often contain fragmented truths rooted in historical events or practical necessities. It's like how every town has a story about a secret Prohibition-era tunnel to the old brewery. Often, there's some truth to it, even if the details have been jazzed up over the years. A quirky tidbit. Some of these local legends describe tunnels that were so narrow or low that one had to crawl through them, leading to colourful nicknames like the snake's belly or the hyena's den. Imagine trying to navigate a valuable manuscript through something called the hyena's den. Sounds less like a scholarly endeavour and more like an Indiana Jones prequel. Historians still argue whether the prevalence of these tunnel narratives is a direct reflection of actual hidden structures, or if they are largely metaphorical, representing the hidden complexities of the city's social and political networks. But for you, the repetition of these tales, the way they surface again and again in different contexts, suggests something more tangible. It's not just a passing fancy, it's a persistent whisper from the past, urging you to look deeper. The very earth beneath Timbuktu feels alive with these possibilities, hinting at a hidden world just waiting to be rediscovered, a network of forgotten passages that could rewrite entire chapters of its history. As your quest for Timbuktu's hidden tunnels deepens, you're forced to confront a formidable adversary: the geological challenges of the Sahara Desert. This isn't lush, fertile land where ancient structures are neatly preserved under layers of topsoil. No, this is an environment of extremes, a vast shifting canvas of sand and wind, where everything is either slowly buried or relentlessly eroded. Imagine the relentless sun baking the earth to a hard, cracked crust, only to be followed by torrential but infrequent rains that turn the ground into a treacherous, muddy soup. You feel the grit of fine sand against your skin, blown by a constant, whispering wind that seems to possess a mind of its own. This isn't just decorative sand, it's an active geological force. Dunes migrate, swallowing entire landscapes and then, just as suddenly, revealing ancient secrets, only to bury them again moments later. The very ground you stand on is unstable, a constantly changing puzzle. This dynamism presents a significant hurdle for any underground structures. How could tunnels, perhaps dug centuries ago, survive the relentless assault of shifting sands, flash floods, and the sheer weight of an ever-changing desert above them? It's like trying to build a castle on a trampoline during an earthquake, only with more dust and considerably less bounce. The underlying geology of the region, often characterized by sedimentary deposits, also plays a crucial role. While some areas might offer stable rock layers, others are loose, friable, and prone to collapse. Any ancient tunneler would have faced immense engineering challenges, requiring a deep understanding of soil mechanics and hydrogeology knowledge that might seem remarkably advanced for their time. You can almost hear the ancient builders scratching their heads, wondering, how do we make sure this doesn't just poof, disappear into a giant sandpit? Mainstream historical fact. The Sahara Desert is one of the largest and harshest deserts in the world, characterized by extreme temperature fluctuations, sparse rainfall, and significant aeolian, wind-driven, erosion and deposition, which constantly reshapes the landscape. This makes archaeological preservation and discovery particularly challenging compared to more stable environments. It's truly a testament to nature's relentless power, making even the most robust human creations seem fleeting. A quirky tidbit. Due to the extreme dryness, organic materials like wood and textiles can be incredibly well preserved if buried quickly by sand, essentially mummifying them. Conversely, even stone structures can be worn down by abrasive sandblasting over centuries, leading to bizarrely sculpted formations. So, while your ancient tunnel might be gone, you might find a perfectly preserved, millennia-old camel hair sock just next to it. Priorities, right? Historians still argue whether the challenges of the Saharan environment forced ancient inhabitants to develop uniquely adaptive building techniques for subterranean structures, or if the very idea of extensive, long-lasting tunnels in such conditions is inherently improbable. But for you, the sheer scale of the environmental forces at play makes the prospect of forgotten tunnels all the more remarkable. If they exist, if these stories hold true, then they are not just tunnels, they are engineering marvels, testaments to an ingenuity that defied one of the planet's most unforgiving landscapes. The thought sends a shiver down your spine, not from cold, but from the immense respect you gain for the forgotten builders who might have once carved a secret world beneath these very sands. Moving past the daunting geological realities, your investigation into Timbuktu's potential subterranean network leads you to consider a critical component of any thriving desert city: water management systems. Imagine the ingenious solutions required to sustain a large population and its flourishing intellectual life in such an arid environment. You begin to trace the invisible lines of ancient aqueducts, cisterns, and wells, recognizing that water was not just a resource, but the very lifeblood of the city. You observe the subtle depressions in the landscape, the slight rises that indicate ancient channels, long since dry and filled with sand. These were likely fogara or kanats, ingenious underground irrigation tunnels that tapped into distant aquifers and brought precious water to the surface with minimal evaporation. This wasn't just about quenching thirst, it was about agriculture, about sustaining the vibrant gardens that once existed, providing a vital food source for the city. The very existence of such complex hydrological engineering implies a sophisticated understanding of subterranean geology and excavation. It's like finding a modern plumbing schematic from the 15th century, but with much more dirt and significantly fewer angry calls to the landlord. The question then arises, could these water management tunnels have had dual purposes? Perhaps some sections were large enough to serve as discrete passages, or perhaps the techniques used to dig and maintain them laid the groundwork for other, more secretive, underground constructions. The knowledge of how to stabilize an underground passage, how to prevent collapse, how to manage water seepage, these skills would be directly transferable from building an irrigation tunnel to constructing a hidden network of scholarly or defensive passages. The very fabric of the city's survival depended on its mastery of water, and that mastery, by necessity, extended beneath the earth. Mainstream historical fact: many ancient desert civilizations, including those in the Middle East and North Africa, developed sophisticated underground water management systems, like kanats or keteras, to access and transport water from aquifers over long distances while minimizing evaporation. These systems often involved extensive networks of subterranean tunnels. This technology was crucial for sustaining large settlements in arid regions, demonstrating advanced hydraulic engineering. It proves that ancient engineers were truly ingenious, even without AutoCAD. A quirky tidbit: maintaining these fogara systems was a dangerous and labor-intensive task, often involving specialized tunnel cleaners who would descend into the dark, cramped passages to remove silt, and repair collapses. Imagine that job description. Must enjoy confined spaces, darkness, and the occasional surprise encounter with a very surprised desert creature. Not for the faint of heart or the claustrophobic. Historians still argue whether the technology for such advanced underground water systems was independently developed in various regions, or if it diffused from a single point of origin, perhaps in ancient Persia, across the vast trade networks. But for you, the sheer scale and complexity of Timbuktu's likely water infrastructure offer compelling evidence for the existence of subterranean expertise. If they could dig and maintain extensive networks for water, what would stop them from doing the same for other, more clandestine purposes? The thought of these life-giving arteries potentially concealing secret passages, leading to hidden chambers, or connecting distant points within the city, adds another fascinating layer to the mystery of Timbuktu's forgotten tunnels. The whispers grow stronger, hinting at a practical, undeniable reason for venturing beneath the earth. Having explored the practical necessity of water tunnels, your journey into Timbuktu's subsurface possibilities now turns to a more strategic and perhaps more desperate purpose: defensive passages. Imagine the city during a period of unrest, the air thick with tension, the distant rumble of approaching armies, or the unsettling reports of bandit raids. In such times, the immediate thought turns to defense, to protecting the invaluable lives and treasures within the city walls. And what better defense, what more effective escape route than something utterly hidden from an attacking force? You visualize the chaos of a siege, the pounding at the gates, the shouts of invaders, the desperate scramble for safety. Now, consider the possibility of a network of subterranean tunnels designed specifically to allow discreet movement for defenders, to launch surprise counterattacks, or, critically, to spirit away the most valuable assets: the scholars, the families, and above all, the priceless manuscripts, to safety beyond the city's immediate reach. These wouldn't be grand, well-lit corridors. They would be narrow, perhaps claustrophobic, built for functionality and secrecy, not comfort. It's the ultimate panic room, but on a city-wide scale, capable of disappearing an entire library of knowledge, or a particularly important dignitary who just couldn't face another long meeting. The very psychology of a siege would make such tunnels invaluable. Imagine the psychological blow to an invading army, thinking they have captured a city, only to find its most valuable inhabitants and treasures have simply vanished into thin air. It's like a magic trick, but with much higher stakes and considerably less glitter. These tunnels would represent not just physical escape routes, but a strategic advantage, allowing for the redeployment of forces, the delivery of supplies, or simply the preservation of the city's intellectual heart until the storm passed. Mainstream historical fact. Many ancient and medieval cities across the world incorporated tunnels and subterranean passages into their defensive strategies, used for sally ports, surprise exits for attacks, escape routes during sieges, or even for communication and supply lines under enemy lines. The concept of using the underground for defense is a well-established military tactic throughout history. It proves that even without modern reconnaissance, people understood the strategic advantage of out of sight, out of mind. A quirky tidbit: some historical accounts describe defenders using such tunnels to create diversions, emerging in unexpected locations to confuse and demoralize besieging armies. Imagine being an invading soldier, finally breaching the city walls, only to find a small group of highly determined, slightly dusty, and very confused defenders popping up behind you from a secret hole. Not exactly ideal for morale. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of any significant subterranean network in Timbuktu would have been defensive, given the city's strategic importance and frequent periods of external threat, or if its intellectual and commercial needs dictated a different primary function for such hidden spaces. But for you, the idea of these tunnels as vital conduits during times of crisis makes perfect sense. The vulnerability of Timbuktu, despite its wealth, to external forces would have been a constant concern. And what better way to safeguard its very essence, its people and its knowledge, than to provide an unseen, unbreakable link to freedom, or at least to a very good hiding spot. The possibility of these tunnels serving as secret havens from the chaos above adds a layer of desperate ingenuity to their potential existence. You've considered the practical, the defensive, and the hydrological reasons for Timbuktu's potential tunnels. Now, your mind drifts to a more enigmatic, almost romantic notion, the idea of secret knowledge transfer. Imagine the scholarly environment of Timbuktu, a place where intellectual debate was fervent, where new ideas were constantly being explored, and where perhaps some ideas were considered too radical, too sensitive, or too dangerous for open discussion in certain periods. You envision hushed conversations under the cloak of night, not in darkened alleyways, but in the cool, silent depths of subterranean passages. Scholars, perhaps from different schools of thought, or those working on controversial subjects like unorthodox interpretations of religious texts or advanced scientific theories that challenged prevailing dogma, could have used these tunnels to meet, exchange ideas, and share forbidden manuscripts away from prying eyes. It's the ultimate academic speakeasy, a clandestine intellectual society operating beneath the very foundations of the city. Forget the secret handshake. Here, it's all about the secret scroll pass. Think about the sheer excitement, the intellectual thrill of such a hidden exchange, the urgency of sharing a newly discovered astronomical chart or a philosophical treatise that might upset the status quo. These tunnels wouldn't just be physical conduits. They would be arteries for the flow of subversive thought, channels for the quiet revolution of ideas. It speaks to a profound dedication to knowledge that transcends even personal safety, a willingness to literally go underground to pursue truth. Mainstream historical fact. Throughout history, intellectual communities, especially those dealing with sensitive or controversial topics, have often sought discreet ways to exchange information, from secret societies to hidden printing presses. The desire to preserve and advance knowledge, even when facing opposition, has frequently led to clandestine methods of communication and dissemination. It's the academic version of a spy thriller, just with more parchment and fewer car chases. A quirky tidbit. Some legends hint that certain tunnels led to secret chambers used for alchemical experiments, or the study of esoteric arts, where scholars sought to unlock the universe's hidden secrets away from public scrutiny. Imagine accidentally stumbling into an ancient alchemist's lab, full of bubbling concoctions and strange instruments. You might not find gold, but you might find a very dusty, very old "Do Not Disturb" sign. Historians still argue whether the primary motivation for creating hidden spaces in Timbuktu was primarily for physical security, economic protection, or if a significant driver was indeed the need for intellectual freedom and the discreet exchange of specialized or sensitive knowledge. But for you, the idea of these tunnels as conduits for secret knowledge adds a profound depth to their potential purpose. It elevates them beyond mere utilitarian structures, transforming them into symbols of intellectual defiance and the enduring human spirit's quest for understanding, even in the face of constraint. The thought of those whispered debates, the rustle of forbidden scrolls, and the quiet pursuit of radical ideas within the silent embrace of the earth makes the possibility of these tunnels all the more compelling. Having considered the exchange of clandestine knowledge, your mind now turns to a more tangible yet equally vital function for Timbuktu's potential tunnels, their role as hidden storage spaces. Imagine the sheer volume of precious manuscripts we discussed earlier, hundreds of thousands of them, representing centuries of accumulated wisdom. Now, envision the vulnerability of such a treasure trove to external threats, raiding armies, political instability, or even accidental fires, a constant danger in a city of mud and thatch. You picture the desperate scramble during a perceived threat. Scholars and their families laden with scrolls and codices, not knowing where to turn. Then, a discreet entrance, a hidden passage leading down into the cool, dry embrace of the earth. These tunnels wouldn't just be pathways, they would open into subterranean chambers, vast, unseen vaults, specifically designed for the secure safekeeping of the city's most invaluable assets. These would be ideal conditions for preservation too: stable temperatures, low humidity, thanks to the desert dryness paradoxically, and protection from the harsh elements above ground. It's the ultimate climate-controlled storage unit, but with significantly more historical gravitas and a distinct lack of annoying key fobs. Think of the ingenuity required to construct such chambers, to ventilate them adequately, and to ensure their long-term stability against the shifting sands. These wouldn't be simple dugouts. They would be carefully engineered spaces, perhaps lined with stone or reinforced with timber, designed to withstand the test of time and conceal their contents from even the most determined looter. The idea of these literary treasures, tucked away deep beneath the city, safe from the chaos above, is incredibly compelling. It transforms the concept of a library from an open, vulnerable space to a fortress of knowledge, guarded by the very earth itself. Mainstream historical fact. It was common practice for medieval libraries and wealthy families to construct hidden rooms or vaults for the safekeeping of valuable documents and possessions, especially during times of war or political upheaval. The desire to preserve cultural heritage and personal wealth often drove innovation in secure storage solutions. It's like a medieval bank vault, but instead of gold bars, it's full of ancient astrophysics textbooks. A quirky tidbit. Some accounts suggest that the entrances to these hidden storage tunnels were so cleverly disguised that they appeared to be part of ordinary houses or even within the walls of existing buildings, requiring specific knowledge or even a secret mechanism to access. Imagine your neighbor's bookshelf swinging open to reveal a secret tunnel, instead of just a dusty collection of ceramic cats. It certainly adds a bit of spy novel flair to historical preservation. Historians still argue whether the perceived threats to Timbuktu's manuscript collections were severe enough or frequent enough to warrant the construction of extensive, permanent, subterranean storage facilities, or if the movement of manuscripts was more ad hoc and reactive during specific crises. But for you, the sheer value of these manuscripts, both intellectually and culturally, makes the notion of dedicated hidden storage almost a certainty. If you had the accumulated wisdom of centuries in your keeping and a constant threat of invasion, wouldn't you build the ultimate secret bunker for it? The image of those silent, dark chambers patiently holding their invaluable contents for centuries, waiting to be rediscovered, makes the search for Timbuktu's forgotten tunnels not just an archaeological quest, but a mission to unlock a hidden legacy. Your journey through the annals of Timbuktu's hidden history now brings you to a fascinating intersection: the perspective of European explorers' accounts. Imagine yourself not just as an invisible observer, but as one of these intrepid and often utterly bewildered Europeans, pushing through the relentless heat and endless dunes of the Sahara in the 18th or 19th century, driven by the tantalizing allure of the legendary Gold City. For centuries, Timbuktu was a mythical place to the Western world, a city shrouded in mystery, often depicted on maps with tantalizingly vague annotations. You picture yourself, perhaps René Callier, disguising yourself as an Arab merchant, or Heinrich Barth, meticulously documenting everything he saw. What would you have observed? The grand mosques, certainly. The bustling markets, undoubtedly. But what about the subtle hints, the local whispers, the odd observations that might have suggested something more, something beneath the surface? Perhaps a peculiar air current emanating from the ground, or an area where the sand felt oddly hollow beneath your feet, or local guides who seemed to vanish and reappear in unexpected places. These early explorers, despite their often ethnocentric biases, were keen observers, and their journals, letters, and published works are invaluable windows into the Timbuktu of their time. They might have heard fragmented stories from locals, tales that, to a Western ear, sounded like folklore or superstition, but which, in hindsight, could have been subtle hints about subterranean passages. They were searching for gold, for trade routes, for the source of the Niger River. The idea of ancient hidden tunnels might have been far from their immediate comprehension, or simply dismissed as fanciful. Yet, even a fleeting mention, a passing curiosity, could be a vital clue for us now, centuries later. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is the Sahara, and the needle is a coded message from a very polite, but slightly confused, 19th century explorer. Mainstream historical fact. For centuries, Timbuktu remained largely inaccessible to Europeans due to its remote location, the dangers of trans-Saharan travel, and the strong local resistance to foreign intrusion. Early European explorers who did reach the city, such as Mungo Park, René Caillier, and Heinrich Barth, provided some of the first direct Western accounts, often with a mix of wonder, misunderstanding, and valuable ethnographic observations. They were essentially the first influencers to visit Timbuktu, though their likes were measured in scientific recognition rather than social media engagement. A quirky tidbit: René Caillier, one of the first Europeans to return alive from Timbuktu in 1828, had to pretend to be an Egyptian convert to Islam to gain entry. He later complained extensively about the city's mud architecture and general lack of grandeur compared to his European expectations, probably missing the entire point of its intellectual wealth. Imagine risking your life for years, only to come back and say, "Meh, it was a bit muddy." Historians still argue whether the limited and often biased accounts of early European explorers missed crucial aspects of Timbuktu's infrastructure and daily life due to cultural barriers and preconceived notions, or if their observations, despite their flaws, accurately reflected a city already in decline. But for you, sifting through these dusty journals, you look for the anomalies, the throwaway lines, the moments of confusion or wonder that might hint at something unseen. Did they unwittingly walk over a hidden entrance? Did a local guide gesture vaguely towards the ground when speaking of old ways? The tantalizing possibility remains that, even in their limited understanding, these pioneering explorers might have brushed against the very secrets we seek beneath Timbuktu. Shifting from the often skeptical observations of European visitors, your exploration of Timbuktu's hidden tunnels now embraces a more profound and enduring source of information: local oral histories. Imagine sitting once more with the elders, but this time you're not just listening for passing anecdotes. You're delving into the deep well of generational memory, the stories meticulously passed down from parent to child, from griot to apprentice, across centuries. These aren't just tales, they are living archives, meticulously preserved narratives that offer glimpses into a past no written document can fully capture. You hear about the ways of the ancestors, pathways known only to a few, sometimes guarded by specific families or clans. These stories might describe how people vanished and reappeared during times of siege, or how sacred knowledge was moved to safety, or even how vital trade goods were secretly transported to avoid detection. The details might be veiled in metaphor, perhaps speaking of underground rivers where no water flowed, or paths of shadows that connected distant points. But beneath the poetic language lies a kernel of practical historical truth. It's like being handed a treasure map, but all the landmarks are described by a very enthusiastic poet. The power of these oral histories lies in their continuity. Unlike written records, which can be lost or destroyed, these stories live in the minds and voices of the people. They are constantly retold, subtly refined, and imbued with the collective experience of generations. You sense a deep respect for these traditions, a quiet understanding that the past is not merely gone, but actively lives within the present through these narratives. This isn't just folklore, it's a living history, echoing with the footsteps of those who came before. Mainstream historical fact. In many West African societies, oral tradition serves as the primary means of transmitting historical, cultural, and social knowledge across generations. Griots and elders are revered as custodians of this collective memory, ensuring that complex narratives, genealogies, and historical events are preserved with remarkable accuracy, despite the absence of written records. It's a testament to the incredible capacity of human memory and the power of communal storytelling. A quirky tidbit. To ensure accuracy and consistency in oral transmission, certain key narratives might be accompanied by specific gestures, songs, or even the recitation of proverbs that act as mnemonic anchors. So, if a griot suddenly started doing a little jig while talking about a specific battle, it wasn't just for dramatic effect, it was probably a secret memory cue. Imagine trying to learn history that way. A bit more engaging than endless dates, surely. Historians still argue whether the apparent lack of extensive written documentation about subterranean structures in Timbuktu, compared to the oral accounts, indicates their limited scale or sporadic existence, or if such information was deliberately kept secret due to its strategic importance and was thus only preserved in highly guarded oral traditions. But for you, the sheer persistence and consistency of these local stories about hidden passages are compelling. They are not isolated anecdotes. They are part of a larger narrative tapestry, suggesting a tangible reality beneath the embellishments. You feel the weight of these stories, the quiet insistence that the truth of Timbuktu extends far deeper than its visible surface, waiting for someone to finally listen to the wisdom passed down through time. Having absorbed the rich tapestry of local legends, your investigation now pivots towards the present, embracing the cutting edge of science. Modern archaeological surveys. Imagine a team of dedicated researchers, not with shovels just yet, but with sophisticated instruments, meticulously mapping the ground where ancient Timbuktu once thrived. You envision drones soaring silently overhead, capturing high-resolution aerial imagery, revealing subtle patterns and anomalies invisible to the naked eye. Then you see geophysicists traversing the terrain, pushing equipment that hums and beeps, painstakingly collecting data. This isn't the romanticized digging of old, where intrepid archaeologists haphazardly unearth treasures. This is a scientific, systematic approach, designed to gather as much information as possible before breaking ground. They're looking for anomalies in the Earth's magnetic field, variations in electrical resistivity, or changes in soil density, all potential indicators of buried structures, whether they be walls, foundations, or indeed tunnels. It's like giving the Earth an MRI scan, trying to see what secrets its ancient layers are hiding. Except, the patient is a desert, and it's been holding its breath for centuries. You observe the careful plotting of data points, the creation of intricate maps, and 3D models that reveal faint outlines of what might lie beneath. This non-invasive preliminary work is crucial for several reasons. It minimizes damage to potentially fragile sites, it directs future excavation efforts more efficiently, and it helps to corroborate or refute the oral histories that have persisted for so long. It's a painstaking process, but every subtle reading, every tiny deviation from the expected, brings us closer to understanding the true subterranean landscape of Timbuktu. Mainstream historical fact. Modern archaeological practice increasingly relies on non-invasive geophysical survey methods such as magnetometry, ground-penetrating radar (GPR), and electrical resistivity tomography (ERT) to identify and map buried archaeological features without disturbing the ground. These techniques have revolutionized the efficiency and ethical standards of excavation. It's like having X-ray vision for dirt, which, let's be honest, is a superpower we all secretly wish we had at some point. A quirky tidbit. Sometimes, ancient buried structures can even be identified by changes in vegetation growth on the surface, as buried walls or ditches can affect soil moisture and nutrient distribution, leading to subtle patterns of greener or sparser plant life. So, a perfectly straight line of slightly less enthusiastic weeds might actually be the ghostly outline of a Roman road. Or, in our case, perhaps the faint trace of a forgotten tunnel. The desert really does leave its own subtle breadcrumbs. Historians still argue whether the current limitations of geophysical survey technology, particularly in complex and varied desert environments, mean that truly extensive or very deep subterranean features might still remain undetected, or if the absence of strong signals conclusively proves their limited scope. But for you, watching these diligent scientists at work, their instruments patiently probing the earth, you feel a profound sense of anticipation. Every flicker on a screen, every subtle shift in a reading, could be the first tangible confirmation of those ancient whispers. The tools of the 21st century are finally being brought to bear on a mystery centuries old, slowly peeling back the sandy veil to reveal Timbuktu's hidden depths. Building on the foundation of general archaeological surveys, your focus now narrows to a specific, highly effective tool in the quest for Timbuktu's hidden world, ground-penetrating radar, GPR. Imagine a specialized piece of equipment, looking a bit like a lawnmower or a small trolley, being carefully pushed across the uneven, sandy ground. This isn't just any old gadget. It's a sophisticated device emitting electromagnetic waves into the earth. As these waves encounter different materials, whether it's solid rock, packed earth, disturbed soil, or even an empty void, they reflect back, creating a detailed subsurface image. You envision the screen connected to the GPR unit, displaying shimmering, undulating lines and patterns. These aren't abstract squiggles. They are a direct representation of what lies beneath your feet, almost like an ultrasound of the earth. Anomalies, those slight deviations in the pattern, are what the archaeologists are meticulously searching for. A perfectly straight line might indicate a buried wall. A clear, dark void could be a chamber or, thrillingly, a tunnel. It's like staring at an abstract painting, but knowing that within those brushstrokes lies the secret blueprint of an ancient, hidden world. And unlike trying to guess what your toddler's finger painting is, these patterns have scientific meaning. The beauty of GPR is its non-invasiveness. You don't have to dig a single hole to get a preliminary understanding of what's lurking beneath the surface. This is particularly crucial in a sensitive archaeological site like Timbuktu, where preservation is paramount. Every pulse of the radar is a quiet question asked of the earth, and every reflected wave is a whispered answer, slowly building a mosaic of the subterranean landscape. It's a patient, painstaking process, but the potential rewards are immense. The first scientific confirmation of what has, for so long, been mere legend. Mainstream historical fact: ground penetrating radar, GPR, is a geophysical method that uses radar pulses to image the subsurface. It's a widely employed technique in archaeology, forensics and engineering to locate buried objects, map geological features, and detect hidden structures without excavation. It's truly a game changer for archaeological exploration, allowing for targeted digs and preserving the integrity of the site. Think of it as the ultimate find all the hidden secrets cheat code for real life. A quirky tidbit: GPR can even distinguish between different types of buried materials based on how the radar waves reflect. For example, a void filled with air will produce a different signature than a void filled with water or loose sand. So, they might be able to tell if that dark patch on the screen is a collapse or a perfectly preserved empty tunnel. It's like the machine can tell if the cookie jar is empty or full just by looking. Historians still argue whether the challenges posed by Timbuktu's sandy, often electrically conductive soils significantly limit the depth and clarity of GPR readings, potentially obscuring deeper or smaller features, or if technological advancements are rapidly overcoming these environmental hurdles. But for you, observing the GPR in action, the sheer possibility it represents is undeniable. Every pass of the machine, every flicker on the screen, holds the promise of turning ancient whispers into concrete evidence. The forgotten tunnels of Timbuktu, once the stuff of dreams and legend, are now within the realm of scientific discovery, waiting for the precise pulses of radar to bring their secrets to light. Your exploration of Timbuktu's potential hidden world now takes a slightly unsettling turn away from intentional structures and towards the surprising clues offered by unexplained sinkholes. Imagine a typical day in the quiet, dusty streets, perhaps after a rare, heavy rain. Suddenly, without warning, a section of ground might simply collapse, revealing not just earth, but an unexpected void beneath. These aren't just minor potholes. These are sudden, often deep depressions, sometimes opening into cavernous spaces, swallowing sections of walls, or even parts of ancient pathways. You picture the scene: a cloud of dust, a startled cry, and then a gaping hole in the earth where solid ground once was. What lies beneath these sudden chasms? Often, it's just naturally occurring geological features, perhaps an old, eroded underground water channel, or a natural cave. But sometimes, these sinkholes reveal something far more intriguing, hints of human intervention. You might see the faint outline of a cut stone, a strangely regular angle in the earth, or even a piece of ancient timber, suggesting a structure that once existed where now there is only air. It's like the earth itself is reluctantly giving up a secret, almost by accident, much like when your dog accidentally unearths your long-lost car keys from under the couch. These unexplained collapses are often dismissed as natural occurrences, and many undoubtedly are. But when they occur in a city with persistent oral traditions of hidden passages, they suddenly become more than just geological quirks. They become potential entry points, inadvertent windows into a forgotten subterranean network. Each new sinkhole, while dangerous and disruptive, offers a tantalizing, unlooked-for opportunity for archaeologists to glimpse what might lie beneath, a silent invitation to explore. Mainstream historical fact: sinkholes are natural depressions or holes in the ground caused by the collapse of the surface layer, often due to the erosion of soluble bedrock, like limestone or gypsum, by groundwater, or the collapse of underground cavities. However, in urban environments, sinkholes can also be caused by the collapse of old, forgotten, man-made structures like sewers, tunnels, or cisterns. So, sometimes it's nature, sometimes it's just ancient city planning gone wrong. A quirky tidbit. In some parts of the world, ancient communities deliberately created sacred sinkholes or wells, believing them to be portals to the underworld or places of spiritual significance. While unlikely for Timbuktu's practical passages, it adds a layer of mystery to how such natural phenomena were perceived. Imagine finding a sinkhole that was actually considered a divine portal. Your insurance company would love that claim. Historians still argue whether the sporadic occurrence of unexplained collapses in Timbuktu and similar ancient cities is statistically significant enough to strongly suggest widespread underlying human-made voids, or if these are mostly isolated natural events coincidental to local folklore. But for you, the sheer persistence of these tales of hidden tunnels, coupled with the real-world evidence of sudden ground collapses, forms a compelling narrative. It's as if the very ground beneath Timbuktu is restless, hinting at a forgotten past that refuses to stay buried. These unintended windows into the earth offer a tangible, albeit precarious, link to the forgotten world below. Moving beyond the dramatic, often accidental revelations of sinkholes, your quest for Timbuktu's forgotten tunnels now focuses on a more common, yet equally significant, source of discovery: accidental discoveries by locals. Imagine the everyday life of the city's inhabitants: a farmer digging a new well, a builder laying a foundation for an extension, a child playing near an old, crumbling wall. It's in these mundane moments that history often chooses to reveal itself, sometimes with a quiet whisper, sometimes with a sudden jolt. You picture a local resident, perhaps a woman tending her small garden, her hoe striking something unusually hollow beneath the surface. Or a young man, tasked with clearing debris from an ancient structure, notices a strange, concealed opening behind a fallen stone. These aren't grand archaeological expeditions with state-of-the-art equipment. These are chance encounters, moments of serendipity where ordinary people stumble upon extraordinary remnants of the past. It's like finding a secret compartment in your grandma's old dresser, except instead of dusty love letters, it leads to an ancient, forgotten passage. Often, these initial discoveries are small: a partially collapsed archway, a section of a bricked-up passage, or even just a subtle change in the soil composition that hints at a disturbed area. They might not immediately understand the significance, or they might simply brick it back up to prevent collapses or avoid attracting unwanted attention. But sometimes, the discovery is just enough to spark curiosity, to confirm a lingering suspicion, or to validate the old stories passed down through generations. These fragmented glimpses are invaluable, providing tangible proof that the whispers of tunnels are not just myth, but a part of the city's physical reality. Mainstream historical fact: a significant number of archaeological sites and artifacts worldwide are discovered accidentally by non-archaeologists during construction, farming, or other daily activities. These accidental finds often provide the first clues to previously unknown historical features, highlighting the importance of local communities in heritage preservation. It proves that sometimes the best archaeologists are just people trying to get their chores done. A quirky tidbit: there are tales of children playing in ancient ruins who have inadvertently fallen into shallow, forgotten chambers, only to emerge unharmed but with fantastic stories of what they saw. Imagine explaining to your parents that you found an ancient, secret room while playing hide and seek. No, seriously, Mom, it had hieroglyphs and a really old, dusty board game. Historians still argue whether the frequency of such accidental discoveries in Timbuktu, often unreported or quickly recovered, suggests that many small, localized tunnels existed rather than a grand, interconnected network, or if the lack of systematic documentation simply obscures the true scale of such finds. But for you, the power of these individual moments of discovery is profound. Each accidental uncovering, no matter how small, is a direct validation of the oral histories, a tangible connection to the past. It's a powerful reminder that the secrets of Timbuktu are not just buried in scholarly texts, but lie quietly beneath the feet of its people, waiting for the casual touch of a hoe or the curious gaze of a child to bring them back into the light. As the quest for Timbuktu's hidden tunnels continues, your focus shifts to a critically important parallel effort, the ongoing work of protecting the manuscripts. Imagine the painstaking dedication involved, not in unearthing new secrets, but in safeguarding the treasures already known to exist. You envision scholars and conservationists working in climate-controlled archives, their hands gloved, their movements precise, as they carefully handle brittle pages that are centuries old. This isn't dusty, forgotten storage. It's a vibrant, active process of preservation, an urgent race against time and the elements. You see specialists meticulously cleaning each page, repairing tears with archival quality paper and adhesives, and painstakingly digitizing every single one. High-resolution cameras capture every intricate detail, every faded inscription, every marginal note, creating a digital twin that can be shared globally without risking the fragile originals. It's like building an ark, not for animals, but for knowledge, ensuring that the wisdom contained within these pages will survive for countless more generations, regardless of what happens to the physical copies. And let's be honest, trying to get a coffee stain off a 500-year-old manuscript sounds infinitely more stressful than any modern-day paper jam. This work is vital because the manuscripts, even those safely housed above ground, face constant threats. The harsh desert climate, with its fluctuating humidity, insect infestations, and, tragically, the ongoing risk of conflict and illicit trafficking. The effort to digitize isn't just about accessibility, it's about redundancy, creating multiple copies in secure locations worldwide, ensuring that Timbuktu's intellectual legacy can never truly be lost, even if the worst were to happen. It's a proactive measure, a recognition that the battle for historical preservation is fought on many fronts. Mainstream historical fact. Following periods of conflict and instability, concerted international efforts have been made to preserve and digitize Timbuktu's vast manuscript collections, often involving collaborations between local families, international NGOs, and academic institutions. This work aims to protect these invaluable cultural artifacts from degradation, theft, and destruction, while also making them accessible to scholars worldwide. It's a global team effort to save humanity's homework, which is a noble cause if ever there was one. A quirky tidbit. During a period of Islamist occupation in 2012, brave local librarians and citizens undertook daring missions to smuggle thousands of manuscripts out of Timbuktu, hiding them in secret locations to prevent their destruction. Imagine a real-life cloak and dagger operation, but instead of secret documents, they're smuggling ancient medical texts and astrological charts. It's truly a testament to the profound value these people place on their heritage. Historians still argue whether the focus on digitizing the known manuscript collections might inadvertently divert resources from the more challenging and costly efforts to discover and preserve unknown collections, including those potentially hidden in subterranean caches. But for you, observing this incredible work, it's clear that protecting the manuscripts, whether above or below ground, is a monumental task. The question arises, if so much effort is being poured into safeguarding the known collections, how much more invaluable would the discovery of new, perhaps untouched, caches within the forgotten tunnels beneath Timbuktu be, it reinforces the profound significance of the potential discoveries that still await, patiently hidden in the earth, perhaps alongside the very tools and methods used to preserve them. As we move from the preservation of known manuscripts, your attention is now drawn to a more pervasive and increasingly urgent threat to all of Timbuktu's heritage, whether known or still hidden: the relentless impact of climate change. Imagine the subtle yet powerful shifts occurring across the Sahara. You sense the intensifying heat, not just the usual desert warmth, but a searing, prolonged intensity that stresses everything it touches. The winds seem fiercer, kicking up more frequent and violent sandstorms that scour surfaces and bury structures deeper or, conversely, expose fragile sites to rapid degradation. You observe the erratic rainfall patterns. Instead of the infrequent, moderate rains of the past, there are now longer, more severe droughts, followed by sudden torrential downpours. These flash floods, though rare, are devastating. They carve new channels in the landscape, destabilize foundations, and can rapidly erode ancient mud brick structures. Imagine a torrent of water tearing through a previously dry area, potentially uncovering, and then immediately washing away fragile archaeological evidence, or even collapsing previously stable underground features. It's like trying to protect a sandcastle from both a hairdryer and a fire hose simultaneously. The desert, once a silent preserver, is becoming an increasingly unpredictable and destructive force. The shifting sands, once a protective blanket for many buried sites, are now a double-edged sword. While they can continue to bury and protect, the increased wind activity means they can also uncover previously stable areas, exposing delicate materials like wood, paper, and textiles to the elements, leading to rapid decay. This accelerated environmental pressure means that the race to discover and protect Timbuktu's hidden heritage, including any potential tunnels and their contents, is now more urgent than ever. The clock is ticking, not just on our research, but on the very existence of these historical clues. Mainstream historical fact: climate change is significantly impacting archaeological sites worldwide, particularly in arid regions through increased desertification, more extreme weather events like flash floods and intensified sandstorms, and rising temperatures, all of which accelerate the erosion and degradation of cultural heritage. Timbuktu is particularly vulnerable due to its mud brick architecture and location in a highly sensitive ecosystem. It's a sobering reminder that our past is literally melting away, or blowing away, or being washed away before our very eyes. A quirky tidbit: researchers are exploring innovative solutions to protect vulnerable sites from climate change, including the development of smart shelters that adapt to environmental conditions, or even using specialized vegetation to stabilize shifting sands. So, soon, we might have ancient ruins wearing tiny, custom-fit, weather-controlling hats. Conservation never looked so stylish. Historians still argue whether the long-term impact of climate change on Timbuktu's archaeological record will ultimately lead to a net loss of historical information due to destruction, or if the exposure of previously buried sites by shifting sands might ironically lead to new discoveries, albeit ones that require immediate intervention. But for you, observing the undeniable effects of these environmental shifts, the urgency is palpable. The very forces that might have buried and preserved the tunnels for centuries are now becoming their greatest threat. If the forgotten tunnels beneath Timbuktu are to yield their secrets, it must happen soon, before the relentless march of a changing climate claims them forever. With the ominous backdrop of climate change looming, your thoughts now turn to the proactive steps being taken, or at least meticulously planned, the future excavation plans. Imagine the detailed blueprints being laid out, the ethical considerations carefully weighed, and the resources being marshalled for a potential full-scale archaeological dig beneath the ancient sands of Timbuktu. This isn't just about finding tunnels. It's about uncovering an entire hidden narrative, a subterranean chapter in the city's extraordinary history. You envision teams of archaeologists, geologists, and structural engineers working in carefully coordinated phases. The initial GPR and other geophysical survey data would be meticulously analysed, pinpointing the most promising anomalies. Then, small, controlled test pits might be dug, not to expose large areas, but to confirm the nature of the subsurface features. If confirmed, then the painstaking process of systematic excavation would begin slowly, carefully, layer by layer, inch by inch, revealing the ancient structures without damaging them or their contents. It's like performing delicate surgery on the earth, where every cut and every removal of a layer of sand is a conscious, precise decision. You can almost feel the anticipation, the trembling excitement that would precede the first shovel hitting the earth in a truly promising spot. This work requires not just scientific expertise, but immense cultural sensitivity. Collaboration with local communities, respecting their traditions and oral histories, is paramount. The goal isn't just discovery, but shared understanding and sustainable preservation. The planning would consider everything from the removal of excavated sand, where do you put literally tons of dirt in a desert, to the conservation of any fragile artifacts found, to ensuring the safety of the excavation teams in a challenging environment. It's a logistical puzzle worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster, but with significantly more dust and considerably fewer explosions. Unless, of course, they accidentally hit an ancient, booby-trapped treasury of scholarly puns. Mainstream historical fact: modern archaeological excavations are highly systematic and involve extensive pre-planning, often integrating remote sensing, geophysical surveys, and rigorous ethical considerations regarding site preservation, community engagement, and artifact conservation. They are no longer simply about digging up objects, but about understanding the broader context and narrative of human history. It's truly a multidisciplinary effort, like trying to get a cat, a dog, and a goldfish to collaborate on a science fair project. A quirky tidbit: due to the extreme heat in the Sahara, any large-scale excavation would likely have to be conducted during the cooler months of the year, often only for a few hours a day, making progress incredibly slow and painstaking. Imagine being told, "All right, team, we have exactly 2 hours before the desert tries to melt your boots. Dig." It's enough to make you appreciate air conditioning in a whole new way. Historians still argue whether significant international funding and political stability will be consistently available for such extensive and long-term archaeological projects in the Timbuktu region, or if the pace of discovery will remain limited by resource constraints and ongoing security concerns. But for you, looking at these future plans, there's a powerful sense of hope. The scientific tools are ready, the understanding of the site is growing, and the determination to unlock Timbuktu's secrets is strong. The dream of revealing those forgotten tunnels is no longer a mere fantasy. It's a meticulously planned scientific endeavour, promising to finally bring light to the deepest, most elusive mysteries of this legendary city. As we contemplate the future of excavation, your mind naturally expands to grasp the full, tantalizing implication: the unseen network. Imagine, for a moment, that the scattered whispers, the faint GPR anomalies, and the accidental sinkholes aren't isolated incidents, but pieces of a grand, interconnected puzzle. You envision not just a few hidden passages, but a vast, sprawling labyrinth beneath the city, a truly integrated subterranean world mirroring the complexity of the bustling city above. Picture a network of tunnels, perhaps radiating outwards from central points like the Sankore Mosque or key family libraries. Some might be narrow and utilitarian, designed for quick, discrete movement. Others could open into larger, more stable chambers, serving as secret storage vaults for manuscripts, secure meeting places for scholars, or even hidden living quarters during times of prolonged siege. There might be subterranean wells connected to ancient aquifers, or even passages leading beyond the city walls, offering unseen escape routes into the vast, unforgiving desert. It's like discovering a second, inverted city, a parallel universe existing just meters below the one we know. Imagine the ancient equivalent of a subway system, only instead of commuters, its scholars secretly shuttling priceless knowledge, and perhaps the occasional, very confused camel. This unseen network would represent an astonishing feat of ancient engineering and strategic planning, a testament to the ingenuity and foresight of Timbuktu's inhabitants. It speaks to a level of organization and long-term vision that often gets overlooked in historical narratives. The very idea that such an extensive, hidden infrastructure could have existed, meticulously concealed for centuries, sends a shiver of profound wonder down your spine. It's a secret world, patiently waiting to be rediscovered, a silent testament to a civilization that literally built its legacy from the ground up and then, paradoxically, from the ground down. Mainstream historical fact. While large-scale, interconnected, subterranean cities are rare, many ancient civilizations, such as those in Cappadocia, Turkey, or Derinkuyu, did construct extensive underground complexes for defense, storage, and even permanent habitation, demonstrating the human capacity for impressive subterranean architecture. This proves that where there's a will and a need for extreme secrecy, there's a way to dig a really impressive hole. A quirky tidbit. Some fantastical local legends even describe these tunnels as being so vast and complex that one could get entirely lost for days, stumbling upon forgotten treasures or even encountering mythical creatures said to guard the deepest secrets. Imagine needing a GPS just to navigate your own city's underground, let alone encountering a grumpy, manuscript-hoarding djinn. Historians still argue whether the scale of any hypothetical tunnel system in Timbuktu would have been limited by the available technology and labour, or if the sheer intellectual and economic wealth of the city could have supported an infrastructure far more extensive and sophisticated than currently imagined. But for you, the allure of this unseen network is immense. It's the ultimate historical puzzle, the grand mystery that ties together all the disparate clues. The thought of archaeologists one day mapping this entire hidden world, revealing the intricate web of passages, fills you with a quiet anticipation. The forgotten tunnels beneath Timbuktu aren't just isolated historical features, they are the potential key to unlocking a hidden dimension of this legendary city, revealing a story far more complex and remarkable than we ever dared to imagine. As the imagined map of the unseen network begins to solidify in your mind, your thoughts now shift from the tunnels themselves to their profound significance, the legacy of lost knowledge they might contain. Imagine not just empty passages, but chambers brimming with scrolls, codices, and tablets untouched by the ravages of time or conflict. You envision a new wave of discoveries, not merely adding to what we already know, but entirely rewriting chapters of history. Think of the possibilities. Perhaps uncatalogued works of astronomy that reveal a deeper understanding of the cosmos than previously credited to ancient African scholars. Or medical texts outlining treatments and surgical techniques that predate European advancements by centuries. Imagine philosophical treatises debating concepts that resonate deeply with modern thought, or historical chronicles providing entirely new perspectives on the great empires of West Africa, perhaps even detailing their interactions with distant lands in ways we never suspected. It's like finding a whole new season of your favourite historical drama, except it's real, and it comes with actual academic breakthroughs instead of just more plot twists. This isn't just about filling in gaps. It's about shifting paradigms. The discovery of such hidden knowledge would not only enrich our understanding of Timbuktu and the broader West African intellectual tradition, but it would also force a re-evaluation of global intellectual history. It would highlight the interconnectedness of ancient scholarship and firmly establish Timbuktu's position as a truly foundational centre of learning, challenging Eurocentric narratives that have, for too long, overshadowed the contributions of African civilizations. The sheer weight of such potential discoveries is almost overwhelming, a silent promise of intellectual revolution. Mainstream historical fact: many ancient civilizations, including those in Africa, possessed advanced knowledge in fields such as mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering, which was often lost or underestimated due to factors like colonial narratives, the destruction of historical records, or simply the lack of widespread documentation in Western languages. The ongoing discovery of new texts and archaeological evidence continues to challenge and expand our global historical understanding. It's like finding out your quiet, unassuming great-aunt was actually a secret agent during the war. Suddenly, everything you thought you knew changes. A quirky tidbit. Legends sometimes speak of certain lost manuscripts containing recipes for ancient technologies or materials, like a particularly resilient type of mud brick that could withstand flash floods, or a secret method for extracting gold with minimal waste. Imagine unearthing an ancient patent for super durable mud. The possibilities for both historical insight and very niche engineering conferences are endless. Historians still argue whether the potential for entirely new and groundbreaking discoveries within Timbuktu's hidden caches is realistically high, given the amount of scholarship already conducted, or if any new finds are more likely to provide incremental additions rather than revolutionary shifts in understanding. But for you, the allure of this lost knowledge is undeniable. The thought of those tunnels holding not just artifacts, but ideas that could reshape our collective historical memory makes the pursuit of Timbuktu's forgotten secrets a profound and deeply meaningful endeavour. It's a quest to reclaim a lost intellectual heritage, to give voice to the silent scholars who built their world not just on sand, but on the enduring power of knowledge, hidden and preserved beneath the very ground they walked. As your journey through the potential subterranean world of Timbuktu draws to a close, you're left with a powerful sense of the enduring mystery, the final thoughts and mystery that continue to shroud this legendary city. You've walked through its golden age, seen its scholars and scribes, felt the pulse of its trade, and peered into the tantalizing possibilities of hidden tunnels for defense, knowledge transfer, and safekeeping. Yet, for all the theories, all the modern surveys, and all the tantalizing hints from oral history, the definitive proof of a vast, interconnected subterranean network beneath Timbuktu remains, for now, elusive. You stand once more on the imagined edge of the ancient city, the setting sun painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, casting long, deep shadows that seem to swallow secrets. The wind whispers across the dunes, carrying echoes of forgotten conversations and untold stories. Are the tunnels truly there, a magnificent testament to ancient ingenuity, patiently awaiting rediscovery? Or are they the collective dream of generations, a persistent legend born from the city's profound intellectual wealth and its undeniable vulnerability? Perhaps a bit of both. The beauty of Timbuktu's mystery is that it continues to inspire, to provoke curiosity, and to remind us that even in our technologically advanced age, there are still vast tracts of history waiting to be unearthed, both literally and figuratively. The search continues, driven by dedicated archaeologists, local communities, and the enduring allure of a city that once shone as a beacon of learning in the heart of the Sahara. Whether the full extent of Timbuktu's subterranean world is ever fully revealed, the very pursuit of its secrets has already enriched our understanding, forcing us to look beyond simplistic narratives and to appreciate the complex, multi-layered history of African civilizations. The forgotten tunnels, even if they remain largely in the realm of legend, serve as a potent symbol of what might still lie hidden, waiting for the right moment and the right minds to bring them into the light. The desert, in its infinite patience, holds its secrets close, reminding us that some stories are whispered, not written, and some truths are buried, not displayed. And so, as the last rays of the sun dip below the horizon, and the first stars begin to prick the vast, inky blackness above, you feel the gentle pull of sleep. The sands of Timbuktu, whether above or below, continue their slow, silent dance. The echoes of scholars, traders, and ancient engineers fade into the vast expanse of time. Let the stories linger. Let the mysteries unfold in your dreams. Now, as the sounds of my voice begin to soften, allow your mind to drift. The desert air grows cooler, the distant whispers of the wind a gentle lullaby. Feel yourself sinking deeper into your bed, the weight of the day lifting, replaced by a quiet calm. The ancient city of Timbuktu, with its visible mosques and its whispered tunnels, recedes into the soft focus of your subconscious. There's nothing more to do, nowhere else to go, just the gentle rhythm of your breath, a soft, steady beat accompanying you into slumber. The secrets of the past will wait, for now simply rest. Let your body relax, every muscle loosening, every thought gently fading away. The warmth of your blanket, the softness of your pillow, just ease into the peaceful quiet, sweet dreams.